This particular topic, recognizing skin tones and their undertones, is one that makes even a most established artist shudder just a little bit. It has to be the most visited and yet least understood subject in makeup. It's as extensive as it is simple. One can go deeper and deeper into this subject and see that it is infinite in its scope because it has everything to do with the limitless possibility that color theory and its understanding has to offer. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for a makeup artist to have color theory packed. It has everything to do with understanding skin tones and undertones, and therefore everything to do with makeup and even hair and clothing. I have tried and tried in my years of working and teaching and reading and watching other videos to simplify this subject for my own viewers and clients. Even a trained eye like mine can sometimes take a few minutes to understand an undertone. But equipped with years of experience and mixing colors and having to think on my feet, I can very quickly arrive at a place where I use all my makeup ammunition to neutralize a complexion, even with limited products at hand, if such a situation should present itself. I think as a makeup artist, one should at least be able to quickly gather visually the undertone of the client that one is working with. The thing is, an inexperienced eye would look at the face first, but a trained eye would quickly suss out any exposed skin close to the face, particularly the neck or chest or even the arms and hands if it's possible. It's like doing mental math and arriving at a conclusion that the individual falls into a certain undertone category, not going only by the face. Why, you may ask? First things first, let's see what a skin tone is. The skin tone refers to the surface coloring of a person, anywhere between very light to very dark. This by itself puts skin into several categories like very fair, fair, light, medium, medium dark, dark, deep dark, etc., to broadly name just a few. It is important to remember that despite one's skin coloring, especially on the face, there is every chance that the surface color of an individual's skin can change owing to changing seasons, skin conditions, pigmentation, exposure to the sun, and several such other factors. The skin on the face tends to change even more often than it does on the rest of the body, including the arms, chest, and neck. So when a makeup artist has to analyze and quickly apply his or her skill to choose a foundation, for example, it would make so much sense to look broadly at the area around the face, such as the neck, the sides of the face, near the ears, chest, arm, hands, to assess a customer's coloring. This is essential because balance has to be brought to the face and make it seamlessly matched with the areas immediately around the face, not the other way around. Approaching the face as a separate entity from the body will not achieve appropriate makeup results. In fact, quite the opposite. So to repeat, skin tones refer to an individual's surface coloring, putting them in categories anywhere between light and dark. So what are undertones? Unlike skin tones, which are the surface colors of the skin, undertones refer to the colors just underneath the skin that give the skin their brightness or warmth or coolness, dullness, sallowness, etc. Let's say that undertones help you describe skin tones. An individual may be very fair or light in complexion, but she may have a warmth about it or a coolness about it. Likewise, a very dark individual may have a golden glow about their complexion or have a bronzed warmth or perhaps even a cool characteristic to their skin. So whether light or medium, dark or deep, an individual may have different undertones. Undertones normally fall into three broad categories: warm undertones, such as red, oranges, orange yellows; cool undertones, like greens, blue, violets; or neutral undertones, which are a blend of warm and cool colors. Like I say with everything else, this is not about to magically occur to you the first time you walk into a job. So don't get frustrated even if it's difficult to crack right at the beginning. There will be a small internal chaos that will beg to throw you off track, but pull yourself together knowing that you're armed with a bank of knowledge and that we live in such a great age of consumerism that every single color has been thought of by cosmetic manufacturers. Your kit is bound to have a mix of foundations and some basic palettes that will help you arrive at a match or a wonderfully complementing color in a matter of minutes. When in doubt, mix and match. No one suggested that you need to pick the first bottle of foundation and it has to be a bang-on match. Always swatch a few foundations if you think you may need to figure out the client's undertone. You will clearly see some obvious hints of a color in your client's skin that will lead you to mix colors in such a way that something finally works. If anything looks ashy or grey, it is definitely not the right one. Having said that, a bit of practice and study will benefit your ultimate understanding of undertones. The internet is an abundant source of knowledge on how to recognize one's own undertones, and there are a few often used tricks to employ, like the following quick tests. The vein test. Take a look at the underside of your wrists. If you see green veins, the undertone is a warm one. If the veins appear blue, it's a cool undertone. If it is ambiguous and there are hints of both green and blue veins, the person may be of a neutral coloring. The white test. Wear a pure white t-shirt and an off-white t-shirt and see which one brightens your complexion and makes the skin look more radiant. If it is the pure white one, then the undertone is cool. If it's the off-white one, the undertone is warm. Jewelry test. Put on gold and silver bracelets or bangles on each wrist and see which ones flatter the skin better. The silver would mean a cool undertone and the gold would mean a warm undertone. If both look good, chances are that the individual is a neutral undertone. Burn test. If a person tends to burn quickly and go red rather than tan, he or she is a cool undertone. It is the opposite with a warm undertone, where the individual tans quickly and burns slowly. If the individual does not tan immediately, but does in a day or two after exposure to the sun, he or she is a neutral undertone. The eye and hair color test. Hair and eye colors are not a thorough indicator of determining undertones, but icy blue eyes and blonde hair, purple eyes and very dark hair do often point to a cool undertone, whereas green, hazel or brown eyes and mahogany or brown hair suggest warmer undertones. Now, all of the above may be enough information for a layman who is not a makeup professional, but for a makeup artist, it is important to experience this oneself. You cannot always ask a client to show you her wrist or wear a few pieces of jewelry so you can tell what undertone she is. As a makeup artist, you need to see how undertones work, and you need to see it often enough. So with abundant practice, those colors are committed to your memory and you pull that information back out for your reference mentally when you're at work. Now, when a painter paints a human being or beings, he or she doesn't exactly splash a color that becomes the defining skin tone of the subject. He arrives at a desired color by mixing several colors from his palette. So the skin slowly takes form by mixing together blues, reds, black, white, violet, brown, so on and so forth. Now, to create a warm or cool quality to the skin, the painter then increases or decreases the percentage of one or more of these colors to achieve that quality. Undertones are that unique percentage of warm or cool colors in each individual's skin coloring. Getting the idea? Now, here's something that I used to fiddle with that is super simple and has always worked for me, especially when I was setting out as a self-taught makeup artist. I believe that any makeup artist will benefit from this exercise because one will see the skin color come together with one's own eyes. Take a cream-based color palette, which consists of very basic colors: blue, green, yellow, red, black, and white. And if you've watched my basic color theory videos, you'll know that one can create any skin color with just this. And as a makeup artist, with practice, one should be able to do so. Don't forget to tuck a cream color wheel with all your basic colors into your kit. It's a lifesaver. Now start with yourself or round up a few friends or volunteers and keep mixing colors from this basic palette to achieve each individual's coloring. Notice the percentage of a color that you might be using to arrive at an individual's coloring. If you've used more pink mixes, the individual is a cool undertone. Sometimes, particularly with very dark or deep colored skin, you may need to use a little blue to achieve the cool undertone. Likewise, if you mixed a greater percentage of warm colors like yellow, orange, peach to achieve the skin coloring, the person is of a warm coloring. If you needed to blend a harmonious mix of both cool and warm colors, he or she is most likely of a neutral coloring. Keep a color wheel handy in your kit for quick references if necessary. No one will think less of you. See what colors fall under the categories of warm and cool. Look at the part of the color wheel where cools and warms come together. you will realize that you can have cool and warm shades of the same color too, like a yellow-green or a red-violet and so on. Once you practice this, all doubt will leave you, and when you see an individual before you, you will be able to recognize even small degrees of warmth or coolness. Or if they don't fall into either of these categories, their neutral tones will be visible almost immediately. Experience will tie everything together and help you choose the appropriate makeup to complement or neutralize an individual's skin and its undertones. Having said all of this, the current times do allow for mixing products like never before, so make the most of it. I will demonstrate in detail how to put color theory to work for choosing foundations and concealers for skin tones and undertones, so stay curious. The most exciting part is yet to come. So you can see a lot of oranges happening in the skin tone. So it could be a warm skin tone. Let's see how we develop this to get there. Starting with a red, which is visible in everybody's skin tone. It's a whole lot of colors work together to make a brown. I'm going to just neutralize the red here to make a brown on our warm model's skin. Now as you can see, it's gone into a cool shade, but having said that, there is a bit of yellow. It's a yellowy brown, clearly indicating that our model is a warm skin tone. Now to bring this back to balance, I'm going to add a little more yellow. And build it up till I achieve her own skin coloring. And if you notice, I'm using a fair amount of yellow. It's somewhat closer, but now I need a touch of red to make it into an orange. Now remember that oranges, reds, yellows, these are all warm tones. So we're using a fair amount of warm coloring here to bring it back to a brown. So I mixed a bit of the red and yellow, which makes it an orange. And I'm building it up till I achieve her skin coloring. I've used no blue here at all. Remember that blues, greens, they're all cooler tones. I'm adding a touch of white and yellow. So keep adding colors as you think necessary to bring the color as close as possible to her own skin coloring. A touch of white. So work as you feel necessary to add the colors that will bring the skin back to her own coloring. If you had noticed, I used a fair amount of red and yellow, and of course white to bring back the lightness to the skin. So a lot of warm colors were in use to bring her skin back. So it's clear indicative that she's of a warm undertone. Well, as you can see here, we have a slightly pink undertoned skin, but let's try and get there so you can see how you can create the skin and know for sure that she's a cooler undertone. So I'm going to start as always with red. It might seem like a bit too much and quite warm actually, because red is a warm tone. But having said that, you mix red and white to make a cool color, which is pink. I'm going to just do that. So you'll notice that this pink that I'm applying right now becomes closer and closer to indicate that she might be of a pink cool color. Now because everybody's skin does have an amount of yellow in it, I'm adding that too. So cooler undertones would largely mean using colors like pinks, blues, purples to achieve a certain skin tone. And I'll go with the white. And you'll see a light pink peach coming together on her skin. Maybe a touch of blue because I can see the veins underneath. Now the blue, it'll give us translucent kind of effect to her skin. which will bring it closer to her own skin tone, which is quite cool. To this I add a white. So if you had noticed, I used quite a few cool colors here. I turned a warm color into a cool one by making it pink in the beginning. And I added a little blue because it needed some blue to make it true to her own skin coloring. And then I continued to add white. So I added mainly cool colors to achieve her undertone, so which is predominantly cool. Well, here's a fine example of neutral skin. Now you'll be quite surprised because there you can see a bit of yellow, but I can see undertones of pink, specifically with the veins. You'll be able to clearly see there'll be some blue veins and green veins. So this kind of skin is either very confusing or really easy, because getting to it could take either mix. I could use a lot of cools or warms to achieve this skin coloring. I'm going to start with the traditional red. So there's a red for sure. And I'm going to just neutralize that with the yellow and make it a bit peachy orange. Now if you notice, this is too warm for her skin, so I'm going to add a touch of blue. So I've already used a cool color and a warm color. And you'll see that there's a slight olive tone that's coming through. Now this kind of a skin can turn olive really quickly. She could either burn or she can turn very red and tan really easily. Yellow olive tones occur at the very top of a color wheel. For example, the three basic colors are yellow, blue and red. Now from these colors you can make any other color in the world. And at the confluence of warm and cool colors, you'll find yellow and olive. So olive normally falls into a neutral category. And you see the tone occurring through her skin. You can see an olive tone in her skin. And I'm just going to balance that out. I'm using a warm color to make it neutral. And also this kind of skin takes any kind of color really well. They can actually wear anything across the color spectrum. So I'm going to show you how there might be an equal balance in achieving this skin of warm and cool colors. And a cool color to make it brown. So I had to use both warm and cool colors to achieve a brown. Now I'll just neutralize this. Pat it down with a white. I just keep mixing in a white to her brown, which is a neutral. So as you can see, in her case, I used a fair amount of blue and I used red, which is a warm color, to get to her skin tone. Even a green, just a touch of yellow. So in her case, I needed to use a little bit of all the colors to achieve balance. She turned into an olive, which worked really well with her slightly green and golden tinted skin. So it's safe to say that this kind of a skin tone can fall under a neutral.